What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Bama Insider YouTube channel. It's time for Monday Night Quarterback. We do this every Monday at 7 o'clock, recapping Alabama's game from Saturday. We want you guys to be part of our channel. So do us a couple things. First off, like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. That's a way of saying roll tide. Hit the bell so that when we go live, and we do that a lot here, that you'll know and you can come and hang out with us, get in the question room, the message board, ask them questions. Let's talk some Alabama football. But we appreciate you guys, whether you're from the Philippines or you're from Brookwood. Roll Tide, everybody, and thanks for hanging out with us. And don't forget, now that Bama Insider is part of On3, you can be part of On3. $1 gets you an entire year, 12 months of Bama On3, Bama Insider On3. Go to BamaInsider.com. You get all the great team coverage with Clint Lamb. You get Jimmy Stein, those guys tackling the message board, Andrew Bone, Joseph Hastings, who's going to be on our show a little bit later, do the recruiting. And we're going to kind of dive into everything that's going on in Alabama football. And before I bring on the guy that you see on the screen there, Clint Lamb, let me remind you that our show is brought to you by Westgate Luxury Condominiums. It's a Jalen Milroe touchdown run away from Bryant-Denny Stadium, right? We got to say that now. It's right next to Bryant-Denny Stadium. Actually, Flash, the new quarterback for Alabama for the time being, could probably be at Westgate and back at the stadium before you could blink. Find out for yourself. WestgateAL.com. They got 1 to 5 bedroom units, 900 to 3,000 square feet. You got the great parking, the oversized kitchens, the balconies, everything that you want right there next to Bryant-Denny Stadium. There he is. What's up, Clint? How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, Mick. How you doing tonight?
I'm excited about talking. The post-game show on Saturday was great. Had a party at my house to watch the game. I don't remember being that hyped up about a football game. I don't even know why. I guess because of the tosses and turns of that contest against Arkansas. But 28-0, 28-23, and then Bama blows them out. But there's so many different things to talk about. And hey, great to see you, Big Buck, as well as you hang out with us here on the channel. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a game of streaks, right? And I think from a fan's perspective, you watch it and they do all the good things early, the things that you wanted to do. There were some drops and some frustrations mixed in there. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't a flawless, first, quarter and a half, but they were playing pretty good football. And then you see Bryce Young go down, and it didn't feel Mississippi State Tua Tagovailoa necessarily. Didn't feel that bad because you knew it was really, really bad with Tua, but at the same time, you looked at it and you said, yeah, they're doing really well against Arkansas. Jalen Milroe had come in. He was continuing to lead scoring drives. Alabama was building on that lead, but there was like this gloom over it because you were worried about, the status of your reigning Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. And then, of course, things started to go wrong. And that, of course, added to the stress that you were already feeling with Bryce Young. And then, it felt like that everything was going wrong. And all it took was a 3rd and 15 from Alabama's own 20-yard line for that guy right there, Jalen Milroe, to break off a long run, set them up for a touchdown drive to extend that lead from 28-23 to 35-23. That, double digits. It's multiple scores now. And I think the pressure from that point forward, was all on Arkansas, and a lot of it had been relieved. So then, you have that roller coaster, but then you come right back and you get to experience kind of that blowout feel late. And I think from, I've seen some fans who maybe weren't thrilled with Jalen Milroe's performance. I don't agree with that at all. I thought it was fantastic all the way around. But, I think for most fans, they were very pleased with the performance. So there's a lot to be excited about with this game. And I think that, just the identity kind of changing in the middle of the game, going from being a pass-oriented offense under Bryce Young to having to run the football and move the football consistently. And you didn't see just them, pretty much running it at will on every snap, but you saw a lot of explosive plays. The offensive line looked good. They were blocking well. I think that there was a lot of exciting factors, involved in this game.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. But let's just talk for a second about Bryce's injury. Nick Saban talked about it at today's press conference. He really was non-committal on whether we'd see him or not. He doesn't even know when he's going to start throwing again. I told you this off the air. I'll say it on the air. I think that he's not going to play. And I think Nick Saban's a little bit irritated by it. That's just my gut feeling after watching Nick Saban in these press conferences, because he was so agitated. And I don't think it was anything that the press did. I think it's just the tough part about being the head coach of Alabama, the number one team in the country, and your Heisman Trophy winner is a little banged up right now.
You could be right. I think right now I'm not fully on board with that, but you're certainly entitled to that opinion. And I'll be the first one to come on the show next Monday night if you end up being correct, and give you all the props in the world, because you're saying that before, most people that I've seen.
That's just my gut feeling. Look, I hope I'm wrong. I mean, I would love to see him out there. But I mean, part of it was just watching Nick Saban at today's press conference, which you guys can watch on the BamaInsider YouTube channel. He just seems so agitated. And I was thinking, like, there's got to be a reason why. And we've seen this guy. I mean, we all love him. I mean, he's been the head coach, since 2007. To me, that seemed to be the press conference today, one of the most agitated press conferences I can remember in a long time.
Well, I kind of probably would relate it to the Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback battle, and how frustrated he was after that first game because of the performance that Tua had, but he wasn't ready to call a starter. He kind of, I think, liked the idea of opposing defenses or opposing defensive coordinators having a scheme for two quarterbacks and having that headache. And he's getting questions about it, and especially right after the game, and they kind of wanted him to commit to Tua based off of the performance. He got very frustrated. So I think that maybe the frustration could, and you could absolutely be right, that's certainly a possibility, but it could also be that he likes the fact that A&M's about to have to, scheme for or game plan against two very different styles of quarterbacks.
Definitely.
And it's the fact that people are asking the question and trying to get him to give, Jimbo Fisher and A&M kind of an edge on which way they're going to be able to go, or have to go, I guess is the better way of putting it. And he doesn't like that. So I think it ticked him off that he's getting those questions. And I mean, I'm with you. I hope that we see Bryce Young this Saturday, but if it's Jalen Milroe, very different style, they'll have a game plan. They'll have a lot more time to kind of, build a game plan around him and his skill set. And I think that's also the point that we need to talk about with Jalen Milroe, is that this game plan was designed around a very different style of quarterback in Bryce Young. And on the fly, they changed some things up. They played to, Jalen Milroe's strengths as much as you possibly could. But in a lot of ways, your game plan is your game plan. So I would be very curious to see, I thought Milroe did well, with what he was asked to do in a very tough environment. Things started going wrong around him quite a bit. Offensively, wasn't moving the football great. After, those first couple of drives, then the defense isn't, doing great because they're on the field for so long, and you got onside kicks and you got botched snaps on punts. Things were falling apart around him, and I thought that he remained, cool, calm, and collected, and it benefited Alabama's offense. So I think it was a great performance, and I think if you have a game plan built around him, you'll get that even a little bit more.
Yeah, look, and I just amend what I said. You just gave me another great reason too. It's a showmanship for Nick Saban. It's I'm not going to tell you if Bryce Young's coming back or not, because now you got to prepare for him, and then you got to prepare for Flash here, who is so fast. I was trying to figure out today the best running quarterback performance of all time at Alabama. Blake Sims, maybe Andrew Zhao, Tyler Watts could run the ball, Stedman Shealy back in the day. I don't know. This guy was so quick, and it was a lot of fun watching him. And one of the big reasons why he had so much success, Clint, was the offensive line.
Yeah, the offensive line was great. From a pass protection standpoint, Arkansas was if I'm not mistaken, I think they were leading the nation in sacks.
They were.
And Drew Sanders was a huge part of that, but they had some other pieces that were getting after the quarterback as well. The one sack that was, I wouldn't even call it allowed, the one sack that Arkansas got, it was on a Bryce Young scramble, and Drew Sanders was able to, I think he was, spying him. He gets out there, he makes the tackle. It was right behind the line of scrimmage. It counted technically as a sack, even though I wouldn't really consider it that. Other than that, the offensive line allowed one pressure the entire night. It was Javion Cohen that allowed it. But other than that, it was, solid across the board. The run blocking, the fact that they went from being a pass-oriented team that was doing a lot of pass sets and stuff, a lot of Alabama fans had wondered, can this offensive line create movement in the run game? And can we have a run game if we need one? I think that they answered that question. And I wonder how much Seth McLaughlin, we do know that he had a couple of very big key blocks on some touchdown runs. He had a great performance. I don't think that this is automatically going to mean that he's the starting center moving forward. We'll have to wait and see. It could, but I also wouldn't completely rule out Darian Dalcourt. That's just, the coaching staff seems to be very infatuated with him and his talent. So, we'll kind of see where it ends up going from there. But the offensive line looked fantastic on Saturday. And Nick Saban today, he said he felt like it was their best performance. And they feel really good about how that group continues to get better each and every week. And we need to give a lot of praise to Eric Wolford for that, because I don't think that you saw a lot of progress from the group week over week last year, whether it be as a unit or, on an individual basis. There was not a single offensive lineman last year that I looked at and said, that's a guy at the end of the year, he is much better than he was at the beginning of the year. And you see week to week development from a lot of these guys, pretty much everybody. And I think that Eric Wolford's, responsible for that.
I got to throw this up as we get into our next topic here. David, thank you for the chat. And that's why we love you guys being part of our show. Gibbs, 22 miles an hour, Milroe, 21 miles an hour as they were bolting down the sideline. What about the show that Jamir Gibbs put on for all of us this week?
He had already shown the ability to catch the football out of the backfield or line up as a receiver and be a weapon that way. But when Jace McClellan ended up going down, with I don't think it's a very significant injury, but when he had to go out of the game, wasn't able to really come back. They had to use Jamir Gibbs in a much more traditional running back role, and he proved that he's very capable of doing that. He allowed his offensive line to set up blocks. He played off of them extremely well. He knew where to press the hole, and he had a lot of success running the football. And I think that putting that on tape, that's just something else that defenses are going to have to scheme against when it comes to this Alabama offense. And so I thought they put a lot on tape. Guys like Cameron Latou and Jermaine Burton and Trayshawn Holden, your typical guys, they didn't really have big performance. They didn't have good performances at all from a statistical standpoint. But you had other players who stepped up. Now defensive coordinators have to worry about Kobe Prentice. They got to worry about Isaiah Bond and their ability to win vertically. Mm-hmm. And you got a guy like Jamir Gibbs who could be such a weapon out of the backfield as a receiver, or as we saw on Saturday, as a runner.
Let's talk about the freshman wide receivers starting to find some playing time, starting to really become big-time targets for Alabama.
Absolutely huge, Mick. Like a lot of this stuff was. When I look at, these receivers, we've been wondering who are going to be some of these guys to step up and become those vertical threats for Alabama. You're not going to have a Jamison Williams amongst this group, at least not right now. But who can be that guy who can be a threat vertically and really make defenses respect or stretch, the field vertically and make them respect the entire field? And I think that, Alabama kind of got a couple of answers there. I think when we've talked about it, first of all, I was really big on Alabama using Kobe Prentice more vertically from the slot. I think that, you got a different style of cornerback in there, like the nickel corner compared to outside corner. I think pressing defenses vertically with that and trying to exploit it, you can end up having some success there. And they certainly did with him. The touchdown catch was a quick slant. It wasn't anything special outside of him showing off his speed, but it was his, the other big catch that he had in the game as well, that they used him as a slot receiver and was able to hit a big play. And then you had Isaiah Bond winning vertically as well. That's huge for the offense. And I think that that's going to continue to, make this offense as a whole a lot more difficult to defend.
All right, last question for you tonight on Monday Night Quarterback. Branch, a Big B, both of those guys are injured. The impact, do you expect to see him this week? What's the latest on the injury front? And we already talked about Bryce Young.
Two very different statuses, right? Because you got Brian Branch, and we don't know, exactly what his injury was, even though there's been a lot of speculation that it was a concussion or something similar, kind of got his bell rung a little bit. He's not here. He didn't practice today. But Nick Saban said that they're expecting him back tomorrow. He should be good for Saturday, barring some unforeseen setback or something happening. That's encouraging. He's one of the best players in the defense and certainly a playmaker in there at the star position. And then you got Justin Eboigbe, who we find out that it's a neck injury. We don't know the severity. They're having him, meet with some specialists and try to get a game plan together. They're not going to let him, return to the field until he's done that. They don't want to risk his long-term health. He's got a future to think about. And while Nick Saban, for whatever reason, gets a bad rap for not caring about his players, that couldn't be further from the truth. So they're going to worry about his long-term health before anything else. But that certainly impacts Alabama's defense. I do think that, the defensive line at times got pushed around a little bit on Saturday, but overall it was a good performance. Arkansas's got a good rushing offense. That was kind of to be expected a little bit. But you still got a deep group, but I will be curious to see how they replace Aboigbe or continue to try to replace him, in certain packages and things like that. That cheetah package is out there. They ran a package with 3 defensive linemen, but 2 of the defensive linemen were 2 outside linebackers, Will Anderson and Dallas Turner, and Justin Aboigbe is the lone, interior guy or true defensive lineman. You saw a lot of Jamil Burrows in those situations on Saturday. I'll be curious to see how they combat it, but it sounds like he's going to be out for a little while.
All right, Clint, what do you got going on this week, and how can everyone here follow you?
Well, it's Texas A&M week. We had Arkansas last week. It was a good game, exciting game. This is the Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban showdown that everybody's had circled on the calendars for months now, since the beginning of the year, since that whole feud, if that's what you want to call it, happened earlier in the year. Talk of Champions message boards, the community continues to grow, continues to get, more and more people in there, chiming in, giving their opinion. Great conversation. All of my written work, of course, is going to be on BamaInsider.com. We'll have some breakdowns, some players to watch, some matchups that you need to be looking at. And, more some long-term, season-long outlook pieces are going to be coming this week as well. So definitely keep an eye on that. And then, of course, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can as well, at Clint R. Lamb.
Awesome, Clint. Awesome hanging out with you. Great work. And we'll do it again next Monday night.
Can't wait, Mick. Good talking to you, buddy.
You too. Hey, guys, as we hang out here on Monday Night Quarterback, let me remind you that our show is brought to you by Westgate Luxury Condominiums, right there next to Bryant-Denny Stadium. When I say right there, I mean right there. Right there next to it, you got the oversized balconies. You got 1 to 5 bedroom units that you can buy, you can rent. You come to town, you want to check out Tuscaloosa at its finest, westgateal.com. Find out for yourself, westgateal.com. It's luxury at its finest, the oversized balconies, the amazing kitchens, the great parking right next to the stadium, the Walk of Champions, Denny Chimes, the Strip, anything in Tuscaloosa that you want to be a part of. You're right there in the middle of it at Westgate Luxury Condominiums. Right now, as you hang out with us here for Monday Night Quarterback on the Bama Insider YouTube channel, like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, get in that comment section and tell me what you're thinking about as we move to recruiting with Joseph Hastings. We're going to talk that. And if you care about Alabama's recruiting and you want to know what's going on, the best way to do it is BamaInsider.com. Now that we're part of On3, BamaInsider.com, you get that $1 gets you an entire year. That's all the recruiting. That's all the team coverage. That's everything that you need to know about Alabama. All right, well, let's bring him on the scene. He's covering Alabama like a blanket, going from one place to the next to find out the latest on things Crimson Tide. There he is, Joseph Hastings. What is up, dude? How you been?
Mick, I'm doing excellent, ready for what I was expecting to be the most anticipated matchup of the season. Unfortunately, Texas A&M isn't holding up their end, but still an exciting game and going to feature a ton of prospects on campus.
Well, don't remember last year they lost a couple games on purpose so they could beat Alabama, right? So I'm sure it's a strategy that they're using to try to trick all of us. No, I think you're right.
Very smart.
They're in a lot of trouble over there. This weekend, though, on your front and on the front that Alabama is always concerned about is what is going on recruiting-wise. And this is what I want to know from you is tell me about the visitors that are going to be in Tuscaloosa this weekend.
Yeah, so honestly, Mick, the question isn't who's going to be in Tuscaloosa. The question is going to be who's not in Tuscaloosa because there's just so many prospects who are expected to get on campus. Let's start with the official visitors. You have 5-star prospects, Keon Keeley, a name that's familiar for a ton of Alabama fans, Cormani McClain, another familiar name, and then the number 1 tight end in the nation, Deuce Robinson out of Arizona. Those 3 are going to be on campus for officials, and then 3 Alabama commits are going to be on campus for official visits, and Miles McVay, Raymond Polito, and quarterback Eli Holstein. Then you look at the unofficial visitors, and it's incredible. You've got Kelby Collins, who's initially expected to take an official visit for this weekend, might end up taking it later, but it's going to be an unofficial for the A&M game. Got Jaron Hamilton, their top remaining wide receiver target, who's going to be in town for a visit. You've also got 2024 prospects, KJ Bolden, a 5-star recruit, Ellis Robinson, one of the top corners in the country, Kylan Fox, you've got King Joseph Edwards. These are just some of the top prospects in the class of 2024, and they're all expected to be in town. Some big time in-state recruits, commitments are going to be in town. Mentioned the 3 official visitors there too, but Caleb Downs, Alabama's highest rated 2023 commit, is expected to be in attendance. Justice Haynes, Richard Young, the 2 running back commitments. You've got a bunch of others who are going to be in town as well. It's truly shaping up to be possibly the biggest recruiting weekend for Alabama of the year in terms of game day visits, and you never know who they're going to get out of it. There's at least three prospects I can see visiting this weekend in the 2023 class that may end up in Alabama's final group come December. So very excited about it and looking forward to the following days after for the post-visit interviews.
I felt like this matchup recruiting-wise was Nick Saban's success, the fact that he can boast that every single one of his recruiting classes has won a national championship, the process versus Jimbo Fisher and the NIL money, right? And, I think that's fair. I mean, obviously that's what the big scuttlebutt was about last year, the big scuffle that broke out with Jimbo kind of taking it a little bit too far, a lot too far with his comments. This is the first game that these two guys will be on the same field against each other. Saban's kind of stayed above the fray. But let's talk about this as far as A&M versus Alabama recruiting battles that, could kind of be going head-to-head the same time that the team's playing.
And you talked about the controversy there, and that was part of the reason why this matchup before the season was so anticipated. This should have been College Game Day. College Game Day should be in Tuscaloosa, not in Kansas, but it's because Texas A&M isn't holding up their end. They just didn't hold up their end, losing to Appalachian State and then losing to Mississippi State. That's all on them, because this should have been the game to kind of settle everything. Now, Alabama, even with Bryce Young and his injury status, the expectation is that the Crimson Tide is going to come out on top here. And I like that rings over Lambeau's comment by Ron Pruitt. That's Olaus Allen's, catchphrase, the offensive lineman commit there for Alabama. But, you talked about the recruiting battles between Alabama and Texas A&M. Yet it starts and honestly ends with Tony Mitchell, a 5-star Crimson Tide commitment. He's considering Texas A&M still. We know this. He committed to Alabama at the end of June, but has taken 2 trips to College Station. He was at the Aggie pool party in late July and also attended the Miami game on September 17th. He may return for an official visit in December. And look, Mick, we have to take a look at this from 2 perspectives. We talk about Alabama potentially getting Malik Muhammad, Texas commit, and Kelby Collins, Florida commit, on campus for an official in December, and there's optimism there. Well, on the same token, there's going to be optimism on Texas A&M side if they're able to get Mitchell on campus for an official in December. I still lean toward him signing with the Crimson Tide, but Texas A&M is very much in the mix. They're the biggest threat to flipping Mitchell. There's no question about it. Alabama's going to have to try and hold on to his commitment. Although they still are talking with other safety prospects. Derek Williams, 5-star Texas commit, is expected to be in attendance for the A&M game. Bryce Doran, another safety they're talking with, but they love Tony Mitchell. They love what he brings to the table. It's just going to be about holding off A&M there. Then you've got Malik Muhammad, as I mentioned before. He's committed to Texas right now, but A&M and Alabama are the 2 schools pushing to flip him. They're honestly the only 2 other schools involved in this recruitment. He's got an official visit to A&M set up for October 29th, that weekend there. And then he's got an official visit to Alabama that he's planning to take in December. What's interesting about his recruitment is that he may take an unofficial to Alabama for the Mississippi State game on October 22nd. So he may get to Tuscaloosa twice before he signs. But those are the 2 main prospects in the 2023 class that Alabama and A&M are battling it out for. Obviously, there's been battles won and lost on both sides. Alabama picked up Eli Holstein, the former Aggies commit, Miles McVay, Justin Jefferson, a couple of others who had A&M offers and were pursuing. And then A&M also got 5 stars, Anthony Hill and David Hicks in the fold. So, but those are the 2 main ones we're focused on right now. And there's still going to be plenty of battles in the 2024 class, I imagine.
So how important is this visit for Alabama's chances of getting Keon Keeley, sorry?
Yeah, this is a huge visit because it could potentially be the last visit that Keon Keeley takes in his recruitment. If you recall, he took an official visit to Ohio State the first weekend of September, took another surprise visit to Columbus for the September 24th matchup versus Wisconsin. Sandwiched between those two visits was a trip to Florida, Gainesville, Florida, to University of Florida on September 10th for their matchup with Kentucky. Look, Alabama leads on the on-3 recruiting prediction machine, 52.4% over Ohio State's 25.4. I think it's a little bit closer than that. I think Ohio State has closed the gap significantly after getting him on campus for a second time. Defensive line coach Larry Johnson, who's produced Chase Young. And if you scroll down to the bottom of his on-3 profile, you'll see that Keeley's Remind Us Of section on his profile is actually Chase Young. So he's somebody that Larry Johnson's developed and produced, the Bosa brothers as well. So you take a look at that aspect of it, and you have to like Ohio State's chances in terms of them potentially landing him. I still think Alabama getting the last visit potentially is very significant, and he's going to be surrounded by a ton of commits. I mentioned Caleb Downs, Justice Haynes, Eli Holstein, Richard Young. A bunch of them are going to be in town. He's going to be hearing a final pitch from Nick Saban, which is huge. You have one of the greatest coaches of all time, the greatest in the modern era in college football, giving you a final pitch saying he wants you to be a part of my team. I think that could resonate significantly for him, and we'll see where it goes. I don't think this recruitment is necessarily close to being over. It could be, in late October, but he's definitely considering some top options there, and this visit is very, very significant for Alabama's chances with him.
All right, Joseph Hastings hanging out with us here on Monday Night Quarterback. Like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, share as you guys hang out with us on a Monday night, brought to you by Westgate Luxury Condominiums. All right, quickly, you got two new 2023 prospects on the radar, Carter and Scott. Both of those guys receiving interest, getting offers. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so Arian Carter received an offer from Alabama the day of their September 17th game against University of Louisiana Monroe. He's been talking with the staff, keeping up contact with them since then. Planning on taking an official visit to Alabama, though a date hasn't been set up yet. He'll be in town this weekend for the A&M game. Plans on utilizing all 5 of his official visits. Currently a Memphis linebacker commitment, but the expectation is that Alabama has a really, really good shot at flipping him. We'll see what ends up happening there, but he's a fast rising prospect. Don't let that national ranking at the top fool you. He's put out a ton of really good senior tape. Our on-3 director of scouting and rankings, Charles Power, is really high on him, and so is Alabama as well. So he'll be someone that we're continuing to monitor. And it's really interesting because, when we first started doing this, Mick, we were talking about Centarian Perkins, the Ole Miss linebacker commit, as potentially the next addition at linebacker there, inside linebacker for Alabama. And, it looks like it could potentially be Arian Carter, and Perkins may not end up in this class. Then you look at Tyler Scott, who's a very interesting prospect because he has not yet received an offer from Alabama, but they're continuing to monitor him. He recently decommitted from Arkansas State. Alabama attended his game a couple of weeks ago. Travaris Robinson did. So, they're continuing to monitor him. He's out of Georgia. I would expect an offer to arrive on Saturday, which is when he takes his visit to Alabama. That's kind of what they did with Arian Carter. They evaluated him, got him on campus, and then an offer was delivered. So, those are two prospects late in the cycle here who had pretty good senior season tape, starting to blow up and catch Alabama's attention.
All right, Joseph, you can find all of his work, BamaInsider.com, part of On3. And right now, you get a year for $10. So you better take advantage of it as we move forward, because as this thing gets closer and closer, this deal is going to be one that you're going to wish that you had taken advantage of as we move forward. But you're constantly putting information, nuggets about recruiting on the site. Anything else that folks need to know before we say goodbye to you on a Monday night?
Yeah, if a year is too much to commit to, you can get us at 4 months for $1. We're running that deal as well. So be sure to take advantage of one of those. Give us a try if you love Alabama football recruiting and team coverage. And then also, just like Clint said, join us on the Talk of Champions message board. We've had some interesting threads recently. I'll let you all explore that and check them out. But we talk movie culture and Alabama adjustments that need to be made on the field and things like that. It's kind of, not necessarily all over the place, but we cover a wide array of topics. So we'd love to have you all part of that community and follow us on Twitter as well, at BamaInsider, at Joseph A. Hastings, Andrew J. Bone, Clint, Jimmy, all of them. Fantastic stuff all around.
Joseph, thank you, man. Awesome. Had a great time tonight. Let's do it again next Monday.
Looking forward to it, Mick. Take care, man.
Hey, you too. Awesome stuff so far. Clint Lamb and Joseph Hastings. Before we bring on Jimmy Stein, let me ask you guys to do me this favor again. Like, subscribe, share. Give us a thumbs up. That's a way to say Roll Tide as we talk to you on a Monday night for Monday Night Quarterback. Hit the bell so you know you get that little alert every time we go live with shows. Nick Saban's press conferences, we're going to have those for you. Anytime the players talk, we're going to have that. We've got the recruiting shows with Andrew Bone. We've got Kyle Henderson on here. We got a great cast of folks that cover Alabama, and we want you to be a part of that as well. And don't forget, right now you can join Bama Insider on 3, BamaInsider.com. You get a year for $10. So these deals aren't going to last forever, folks. Take advantage of it. And he said, Joseph just said you can go 4 months for $1, $10 for an entire year. Take advantage of it as we hang out. Jarvis, great to see you. Roll Tide, my friend. And all you guys shooting us in the comments section, we appreciate that. All right, let's bring him on. Jimmy Stein. He's the dean of Alabama football talk. He's got his Braves jersey on tonight. Obviously, he's feeling good about the sweep over the Mets. And obviously, Alabama's sweep, 16 straight over Arkansas. You guys know him on Twitter at QB_country.com. How's it going?
Well, for the Braves, not too good. But for me, it's going great. We've been counting down to this week since May, right, Mick?
Yeah, look, this is it, man. I mean, Jimbo Fisher, I thought that he went nuclear on Nick Saban for no reason. I just didn't think that it was the right thing to do. Look, I get it. I mean, he was upset with, kind of being called out for some of his recruiting practices, but it really, I never felt like it was personal. And then he turned it personal. I'm curious to see how personal Nick Saban took it, because Nick has played it next to the vest, right? We'll find out on Saturday. I feel like we'll know Saturday if it bothered Nick Saban or not.
Coach Saban almost famously doesn't run it up on people. I don't think it's a good discussion to have for, well before an SEC game, a team that beat you a year ago. I think any discussion about, will Coach Saban run up the score if he gets a chance? I think it's just all about winning the game first. As we know, Alabama might not have their starting quarterback. A&M beat Alabama a year ago. I think I would focus, if I was fans, a little bit more on just winning the game before I would focus on, Coach Saban would love to hang half 100 on him. I'm sure that's true. I'm sure it's true, because that would likely mean Alabama won the game, handily or easily. But it might not be easy. A&M has struggled. It has been a struggle for them. They lost Appalachian State. They were handled by Mississippi State. They could have lost to Miami, frankly. It's been a struggle for them, but defensively, they've played pretty well. They certainly have dudes. Anyone that follows Alabama football recruiting, whether, through Andrew Bone or Joseph Hastings, you follow Alabama recruiting, you're going to recognize a lot of the names that play for Texas A&M. Alabama and A&M go head-to-head over the past 3 or 4 years for lots of kids. They tend to sign basically all highly recruited guys. Again, this is a team with athletes. They beat Alabama a year ago. They're good on defense. The running back, A-Chain, he's the real deal. He's a dude. He won't be easy. So I'm expecting an SEC football game on Saturday. It will be interesting, to get back to your point, Mick. It will be interesting. Should Alabama win the game handily, if that happens, and we've seen it happen before, will Coach Saban hit the brakes late, or will Milroe go for 2 when you're already up 48-10? We'll see.
We'll find out. Will Ty Simpson be chucking the rock around? We figured out what he thought about Hargrove, the or Harbaugh, the head coach at Michigan. Right. You remember that game? We kind of figured out that he was not really happy with him when Alabama punched it in late. I think it was B-Rob. I'm just going off memory. But, you're right. You got to win the game first. And Texas A&M has their backs up against the wall. Alabama's been playing great defense. There were some weird things that happened in that last football game that allowed Arkansas, a bad punt and, an onside kick to kind of get back in it. But Alabama's defense has been playing great behind the linebacker crew.
It is. It's a fantastic group. And what's really impressed me, Mick, is we knew going into the season about Henry To'oTo'o. We knew about Will Anderson. We knew about Dallas Turner. Even the casual Alabama fans know those three names. Those were three prominent guys, right? Well, look who else is playing really well in that linebacker crew. Jayla Moody, one of Alabama's leading tacklers. He's played really well. But a young linebacker, Deontay Lawson, has played so great. He's really pushing Moody. It looked to me this past weekend, Mick, like Lawson and Moody are basically split in snaps 50-50 right now at that inside linebacker spot. And it's just because Lawson is just too good to keep off the field, sort of similar to what's going on the offensive line with Tyler Booker. He's just been too good. They don't want to take him off the field, even though there's veteran, solid play from the returning guards. I think that's what's happening at weak side linebacker. Jalen Moody's been good. He's been fine. But Lawson is pushing him and taking away some snaps. Chris Braswell, who plays outside linebacker, I wouldn't necessarily say he's sharing his position with Dallas Turner and Will Anderson, but we see Braswell a lot with the ones. So not only is Alabama returning those star linebackers that we already knew really well, Dallas Turner, Henry To'oTo'o, Will Anderson, the other three linebackers are all really contributing. And I think as good as this Alabama defense is, a lot of credit goes to these linebackers. They've made a lot of plays in the run game as pass rushers, even dropping into coverage. I've been impressed with the group as a whole, and they'll be challenged Saturday night because Devon Achane, that running back at A&M, I mean, he's a good player. He's very quick. He's very fast. Alabama's defensive line will try to keep Texas A&M's offensive line off the linebackers. But To'oTo'o, Jayla Moody, Deontay Lawson, they're going to have to track A-Chain down. With the loss of Aniyah Smith for the season that A&M suffered their best wide receiver, their best wideout, their offense right now sort of goes through A-Chain. He's their star playmaker on offense, and it's largely going to be up to this all-star linebacking crew of Alabama's to shut A-Chain down.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, they've become a little bit one-dimensional, which against Nick Saban teams isn't always a good idea. Let's talk about special teams, right? I've been super impressed, and I know you have too, with Kool-Aid McKinstry returning kicks, and they've done a nice job of blocking for him. With that said, Alabama looked a fool on that onside kick. The other punt, that was one of the worst snaps I think I've ever seen an Alabama team ever have on a punt, that led to a touchdown. So there's been some gaffes there as well.
Yeah, the middle of the game, Coach Saban said the defense sort of lacked intensity for a while. I really think the middle of the game where Arkansas made a run at Alabama, it was sort of spearheaded by those special teams mistakes, terrible mistakes. I mean, the onside kick, as you said, that was – I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we got to call it like we see it, right? That was just flat out horrible. Alabama
terrible.
Was extremely ill prepared for that onside kick. Arkansas easily covered the ball, and Alabama lost a possession. Not only do you lose a possession, Mick, now Arkansas's got the ball at midfield and all the momentum in the world. It was a real momentum shifting play that was just a complete mental error on the part of Alabama. Then you look at that bad snap on the punt. It was terrible. I mean, we've seen bad snaps in all sorts of football games. Hadn't seen a lot of them at Alabama recently. Lately, in latter years, Alabama's had a really good long snapper that's been sort of mistake free. But this time, Neil Hibbett, Alabama's long snapper, who's in his second year as the starting long snapper, he made a really bad snap. I don't know if the ball slipped. I don't know if it looked so bad, Mick. I thought he might be intentionally snapping it to the up back by either getting him confused with the actual punter. Did he think that was burnup? Or in his head, was there some sort of fake called where he was intentionally snapping? He thought, hey, this is the fake where I snap it to Henry. It looked that bad. I mean, where you're looking for the most bizarre explanations. It may have just slipped, but it was bad, and that directly led to Arkansas points and tighten the game, which is scary when you have a backup quarterback out there leading the offense. So obviously some parts of the special teams have been great. What Kool-Aid McKinstry has done as a punt returner is unbelievable. The fact that he is new to punt returning, the fact that without the JoJo Earl injury in fall camp, Mick, Kool-Aid's not even out there. Kool-Aid's only out there because JoJo Earl was hurt. And now that JoJo's back, Kool-Aid's been so great, you can't take him out. I mean, he's leading the nation. I don't know if that's still true, but I believe Kool-Aid McKinstry has returned punts for more yards than any punt returner in the country. He's been fantastic. All he's missing is the touchdown, but that just feels inevitable based on how many he's come so close to putting in the house. So some parts of Alabama's special teams, the punt return, Will Reichard's place kicking. I know he finally missed one on Saturday, but it was from 53, and it was still a good kick. He really hit that solid. He barely missed it. He was hoping it would have a little draw on it, was hoping for the hook, and it sort of stayed straight on him. But Reichard's fantastic. Kool-Aid McKinstry's fantastic. But you better clean up those special teams errors, because it sort of kept Arkansas in this game. And in any close SEC football game, as we all know, one special teams blunder can turn the whole game around.
I got him up there. Kind of reminds me of a young Tyrone Prothro or Javi Arenas Kool-Aid returning kicks. And that's a good sign, because it's been a long time since Alabama has had that type of explosive playmaker returning kicks. You know, Christian Jones, I think his name was, he was pretty good at it too. But this is Javi Arenas, Tyrone Prothro type stuff here. You're right. The only thing he's lacking is to the house, but he's going to take it to the house, and it's probably going to happen a whole lot in his career before it's all said and done. He's another weapon for Alabama. And the other thing you said, and I couldn't echo it enough, they better get it figured out on the other special teams. Maybe it was a good game to absolutely have a mental lapse on that onside kick, because it didn't end up affecting the outcome of the game. You know, they still won the game. They still covered the spread. They did everything they came to do. They dominated. They cleared out the stadium early. And now they can go back and say, hey, you know what? Even if you're up by 2 touchdowns, you better be expecting something like this. If you're down by 2 touchdowns, you better be expecting it, because now everybody can just look at the video and they know that you're susceptible to that until you prove that you're not.
That's exactly right. And I tell you one good bet, you know, as intense as Nick Saban is, and Coleman Hutzler, Alabama's new special teams coordinator, you know, he's going to be like this. I think Saturday night, Mick, whenever Texas A&M is kicking the ball off, there is a good bet that those front line return guys, the guys that play on the front line, they are not going to move a muscle until that ball has been kicked and has cleared that group. You know what I mean?
Right.
They are not going to let that happen 2 weekends in a row. That front line, they will not move on Saturday until they see a kickoff sailing well over their heads. It might even negatively affect their ability to get blocks or make blocks in the kick return game. But these days, Mick, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, now that you can fair catch these kickoffs, now kickoffs that reach the end zone are hardly ever returned. Really, you just don't see a ton of kickoff returns, which is a shame, because Alabama's primary kickoff returner, Jamir Gibbs, he's one of the best there is in the country. And that's another reason you won't be seeing him get many chances back there. They know what he did at Georgia Tech as a kick returner. I believe he's got 2 or 3 career touchdowns returning kicks, that he did playing for the Yellow Jackets. So I don't think Gibbs is going to get too many opportunities in the kick return game anyway.
Love the comments section. Let me pop that up. Mick, a lot of K's there. Do you think Jimbo is regretting his offseason comments? Javi, I love that question, because I think Jimbo regrets it a lot. You know, now that Texas A&M is getting killed, we're going to play that audio Friday night on the Tailgate Show as many times as I can get it on. Let me ask my guest, though, Jimmy, what he thinks about Texas A&M's lack of success, and you can even dip into those comments that were made in the offseason.
I do think Jimbo likely regrets going as far as he did. I don't think he regrets standing up for his – see, in his mind, or as he would justify it, he felt that by Coach Saban's comments that Jimbo felt like he was defending his kids and their families. That's how he justifies it in his head, and that's up to you guys as to whether y'all believe that interpretation. But I believe that's what Jimbo Fisher believes. He was defending his kids and their families. But I think now that when it's in the rearview mirror, we have heard Coach Saban say that he made a mistake in what he said in his comments. Jimbo Fisher went way further with it than Coach Saban did. I would guess if he had to do it all over again, he wouldn't say all of the things he said, but he will defend his right to defend his players and their families. And that's understandable in terms of that being his take. As far as A&M's lack of success this year, it's a real surprise based on their recruiting rankings over the past 3 or 4 years. They're paying Jimbo Fisher all this money. He's one of the highest paid coaches in the world. Sometimes people forget, they think college football is a Southern thing, an American thing. Let's remember that college football coaches in the United States, they're among the highest paid coaches in the world at any sport. And Jimbo Fisher is literally one of the highest paid sports coaches on the planet Earth. They are not paying him that money to come in 3rd, 4th, or 5th in the SEC West. They hired him to win the West, to win the SEC, and play in the college football playoff. And that came close to happening during the COVID year. They were one spot out. I think they finished 5th that 1 year. Other than that, it's been some 4-loss seasons. And right now, A&M is well on their way to yet another 4-loss season. The buyout for Coach Fisher is enormous, even for a Texas A&M. It would be probably the highest buyout in the history of sports in the world if they paid him. If they paid him $80 million, that's what the buyout would be if they fired him at the end of this year. I doubt very seriously, Mick, that any coach in the history of the planet Earth has been paid $80 million not to coach. And that's what would happen if they fired him. But I think he's going to be given every single opportunity in the world due to the size of that contract. And frankly, they should be better than they are. We know what they've recruited like the past couple of years. As with, we'd say pretty much about every team, Mick, I think what's held them back a little bit is a quarterback. They had Kellen Mond, who was okay. Haynes King has struggled this year. Max Johnson hadn't exactly put it all together there. If you want to be really good in college football in 2022, I suggest you have a big-time quarterback. And they haven't really had that at A&M yet.
Yep, and we'll find out on Saturday. Last year beating Alabama saved their season. Even though it wasn't a very successful season overall, they did beat Alabama. They'll try to do that again on Saturday at Bryant-Denny Stadium. But let's talk about the Crimson Tide, our final topic. Where do you think Alabama sits in the college football playoff race?
You got to like the spot. Alabama, to me, it's an interesting topic because, as we know, Alabama moved back to number 1 in the AP poll. They moved back to number 1 in the coaches poll, basically with the same, argument that Georgia had when Georgia moved up to number 1. Now, Alabama's just looked like a better football team than Georgia these past 2 weeks. And that's why Alabama flipped spots with them. But who cares, right? I mean, this is about Alabama winning out. It's about Georgia winning. If both teams win out, this will take care of itself, both in the SEC championship game and in the playoff, frankly. Should both teams enter the SEC championship game undefeated, it's hard to envision a scenario where both teams aren't in the playoff, regardless of what happens in Atlanta, a lot like last year. That could happen this season. To me, it's about winning out. The CFP has been extremely fair to every Power 5 team that's finished undefeated. Every Power 5 team that's finished undefeated has been in the playoff. That's going to continue. So really, it's just, hey, win out. Now, is Alabama in position to make the playoff with 1 loss? Very, very possible. Very possible. It's too early to know that. I believe there's 14 undefeated Power 5 teams right now. As we know, you don't have to be undefeated to make it. Lots of 1-loss teams that end up winning their conference have made it as well. But Alabama is in a good position to make the playoff, even if they endure 1 loss. Especially if that loss is in Atlanta to Georgia, or even possibly a loss to Tennessee and Knoxville, in the sense that it would be an East loss. Assuming Alabama wins out, they would still win the West, assuming Alabama wins out, even with an East loss. That would put Alabama in Atlanta, where you're playing a very highly ranked Georgia team. So Alabama at this point has positioned themselves very, very well. But let's just for Alabama, for all Alabama fans, you win every week and you're in. I mean, it's that simple. If you win every week, you're in.
And that's what the goal is going to be when Alabama takes on Texas A&M this Saturday night in Tuscaloosa. And now we know that the Tennessee game's at 2:30 Central Time, 3:30 Eastern Time kickoff at Neyland Stadium. Alabama will look for their 16th straight win. That's the longest in that very storied rivalry's history. But a long way to go as the Crimson Tide are back to number one in the country. Jimmy, anything else that you want to add, and how can people follow you and check out your work?
Sure, you can just follow me at little letters QB_country on Twitter. But the best place to find me is the Talk of Champions message board on BamaInsider. You can join BamaInsider for just $10 for the year. Just the message board's been great. You know, Mick, I woke up this morning for the first time. I believe this is the first time this has happened. I woke up, there were 3 full pages of new posts from all the subscribers. Really built a strong community over there. And I'm impressed. I think anyone will be. The level of football discourse on there is really good. This isn't just a we love Kool-Aid, we love Bryce message board. The breakdown of football, sometimes led by the staff members, myself and Clint and Bone and Hastings. That's fine, but we have fantastic subscribers who have very intelligent football opinions. I know myself, I literally learn something every day on that board, and not necessarily from the BamaInsider staff. There is a high level of discourse there. We've had great football talk, and again today, 3 full pages and 90% plus were logical, rational, interesting breakdowns of what happened in Fayetteville. And of course, you can find my work there. I'm posting right now, as crazy as it sounds, 1,400 to 1,500 times a month, which means 30 to 40 posts a day. And they are premium content posts. And by that, I mean, these are my thoughts. Today, I broke down the first half of the Arkansas game, possession by possession. That's been a real popular thread on the board. So come find me on the Talk of Champions, BamaInsider message board, and ask me questions, read the work, and I promise you'll think it's the highest level discourse of Alabama football talk you've ever seen on the internet.
Yeah, check it out. That's BamaInsider.com right now. BamaInsider on 3, only $10 for a year or $1 for 4 months. So you take your pick, and definitely come check it out. You get Jimmy, you get Clint, you saw them on tonight's show. You get Joseph, saw him on the show, Andrew Bone, and we will continue to crush the coverage of Alabama as they march forward through this very difficult schedule, trying to win a national championship after coming so close a year ago. Thank you, Jimmy.
Hey, appreciate it. Hopefully my Braves can come back and win tonight.
Yeah, well, what's the before you get off here? I know they were up on the Mets by 2 games. Is the season over this series, or is it there's another week left?
No, this is it. This is the final 3 games. The Braves' magic number is 1. Just 1 Braves win.
Got to win 1 game, and they're playing the Marlins.
Or a loss, or 1 loss by the Mets, who are hosting the Nationals. So it feels inevitable, but it's not over till it's over. Was hoping it would be tonight so the Braves could rest a couple of days before the postseason starts this weekend.
Oh, the defending champs trying to steal the division in the last week of the season. And we'll see what happens. Jimmy, again, thank you so much. Guys, as you hang out with us, make sure you like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Monday Night Quarterback every Monday at 7 o'clock. We talk Alabama football. We want you to be a part of that. Share with your friends and hit the bell. That way, anytime we go live, you'll know that we're on and we're talking Crimson Tide. Our show's brought to you by Westgate Luxury Condominiums. It is right there next to Bryant-Denny Stadium. 1 to 5 bedroom units that go from 900 to 3,000 square feet. They're gorgeous. You got the great parking. You got the Skygate Club. That's where we do the post-game show when we're in town, right there on the roof. It's amazing. And when I've taken people up there, they're like, wow, this is crazy how nice it is. The view's amazing. It feels like the zone in the football stadium. You know, you get your lockers if you're a member there, if you're one of the owners. You get the view of the city. You're right there by Walk of Champions, Denny Chimes, the Strip, campus. anything. Coleman Coliseum right there, westgateal.com. Whether you want to rent or buy, it's definitely worth checking out. Thanks to Chris Daughtry, who's been fantastic behind the scenes, and for Kyle Henderson and our entire crew. I'm Mick Gillispie. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Alabama and Texas A&M coming up Saturday. We'll have coverage every single day leading up to the football game. So make sure that you stay tuned and you know what's going on here at the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, guys. Roll Tide.